Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Telling Tales. And it's Wednesday night. That means Symbaroum, but Symbaroum a little different to how we've had it recently, but all the better for that. Before we get into talking about events up to date and players and all that kind of thing, I'll do my lovely promo stuff. If you check down below this, you'll find a bunch of links to YouTube and links to Twitch, which is probably what you're watching. Well, if you are watching us right now, you're definitely watching us on Twitch. It's where we're live. YouTube is where you can find all our VODs in a massive, expansive archive of about 350 videos now, I think. Lots of series, lots of stuff, something for everyone. You'll also find links down below to our Patreon, our Discord, our social media. If you're interested in those things, please do give them a try. At the moment, we're running 2 campaigns on a weekly basis. One is Vason on Mondays. The other is Symbaroum on Wednesdays. There should also be a third campaign night, or at least series night, starting up soon. So keep an eye out for that. We also do one-shots every month. Again, going forward, there's probably going to be more than there was before. How exciting. And the next one of those is on Saturday, the 29th of April, where we'll be playing Goblin Quest. Very much looking forward to that. If you are interested in these things and are a patron or a crew member, a poll just went out today to help determine the story of that one shot, and the kind of misfortune tables will be rolling on it. So get yourself involved if that's the kind of thing that pleases you. Okay, so to explain exactly what we're doing tonight, I've labeled the stream Witch Hammer Interlude, which is true, but also unexciting. And that's mainly because I was quite tardy with defining, kind of writing this session up. So I haven't had enough time to come up with a name for this interlude. I did jokingly call it Antom's Big Day Out on the Discord, and people went, yeah, let's call it that, because they have no sense of atmosphere or nuance. So, but we won't be doing that. I will fight that to my dying breath. But I will come up with a name for it that's more evocative than interlude. But essentially what we're doing, if you're joining us completely new, it's kind of weirdly a good time to hop in, because the next few sessions will be like this isolated little story, sort of. But also we may be referencing lots of things that might confuse you. So maybe start at the beginning, or maybe start now, whatever. I'm not your boss. Either way, what we're doing is, when we started with the Witch Hammer, which is the sort of second part of the Throne of Thorns campaign, and I suppose the third part of our overall campaign that we're doing. See, I'm already confusing people. One of our players had to head off for a few weeks, and we kind of wrote that character, Father Antom, out of the story by giving him a kind of mission, a side quest of his own, right? And I promised that we'd come back and show what happened in that side quest. Well, turns out that now is the time we're doing that for various reasons. And essentially, that's what we're going to do. So what we're doing is picking up at a point quite a while ago in our story and following Anton through that journey. And just to give a sort of recap of that, we won't go extensively into it, but what I will do is I will bring on Mike, the player of Father Anton, and between us, we'll just have a chat about what that mission is, what's happened, and so on and so forth. So here's Mike. And if we can throw up, obviously, the art for lovely, I can see John doing that as we speak, for Father Anton. There he is. Hi, Mike. How are you doing?
Doing good. I'm excited for Antom's Big Day Out, as it will be known internally, if not by the wider audience.
Yeah,
in fact,
yeah.
After what we've just done, it will absolutely be known as that by the wider audience.
Oh, well, yes, it will. Anything to irritate me. So yeah, absolutely. That's gratitude for you. So effectively, Mike, Antom at this point, through the events prior of the prior part of the campaign, Wrath of the Warden, Antom had become familiar with and friendly with a very powerful and influential member of the Sun Temple called Desaber the Old, also known as the Lightbringer. And just to give everyone the context of that, Lightbringer within the Church of Prios is a saint, essentially. And Desaber is the only person to have been given the title of Lightbringer while still being alive. She is a living saint of the Church of Prios. Although I think from your interactions with her, you're not entirely sure whether she would term herself that. She helped you through the course of Wrath of the Warden, and requested things of you as well, which you fulfilled. And then essentially, as the party as a whole was gathering themselves to strike out north into Davakar again to seek some treasure, some fortune, and then further on to see Karvosti, the plateau of the barbarian witches, where it turns out things sent them in quite a different direction. But we'll come back to that in a few weeks. Essentially, Anton was sidetracked by the Saber, bringing him in and having, I think it's fair to say, quite an interesting conversation with him. Quite a philosophical conversation with him. I didn't ask you to do any recap work for this, but I know you've rewatched the bits. So do you want to give us a sense of what the panel was about?
It was sort of a conversation, but it was also sort of an interview into Anton's thoughts and all of this, because Saber herself didn't give much away. It was more like, what is the purpose of what we do? Like, how does Prios exist? Like, is he a force for good or not, like a force for violence or a force for sort of spiritual fulfillment? I guess like a power versus like nurture thing. Those sorts of questions. And she seemed quite troubled generally by the impression that Anton got was that she's quite troubled by some goings on that she didn't like reveal to Anton, but then she asked those questions to, I guess, find out whether Anton is a suitable person for this job that she needed to have done.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think you got the impression there was some sense of like urgency, both urgency and discretion that she was asking from you. And then she made that quite overt by saying, essentially, I need a mission carried out. And without saying it in these words, said, I need it done quietly and I need it done speedily. That mission that she gave you was to take a letter east to the Duchy of New Berator, and specifically to its capital of Ravenna, and even more specifically to the Duke of New Berator, Inadar. And that was essentially it. She also added that it was of huge secrecy, and the quicker the better. And to the point where she said, essentially, if anyone is going to get their hands on this letter, other than Duke Inadar, burn it, destroy it. I think she also did specify that you yourself should not read the letter.
She did,
So,
although I think it was unsealed. I think that was something that.
I don't remember mentioning it either way. I think it may have had a Sun Temple seal on it, wax seal on it. Okay. Unless if I specifically mentioned that it was unsealed, I'm happy to run with that. But
I think you mentioned it was unsealed, but you were almost like setting the scene at that point. Sure, so maybe she had it unsealed, and
I think she was just
handing it over. She was about to seal it or something like that.
I think that's how it may have worked in my head. So let's run with that. So with that in mind, you said farewell to you explained the situation to a certain degree to your companions, said your goodbyes, and said you would join them when you could.
Yeah.
Obviously, as part of the campaign, we've already seen you join them. But now we're going to tell the tale of what happened in between, right? So what we will do is talk a bit about what you may or may not know of this journey of yours, what you may do, because I think she saw you kind of early evening, and then you caught up with your companions late evening, and then you were literally going to ride out as soon as dawn came.
And I think did I hire a mule or talk about hiring a mule or something like that?
You may have done, but let's gloss over that a second. And I would just like to add the extra point that Desaber the Old told you to be in the south gate at dawn. Okay. For your journey away, I'll just add that with that. That's the extended edition version of the chat, right? So in the meantime, as well as catching up with your companions and buying supplies and stuff, I would imagine that Father Anton, as quite a dutiful individual, the first thing you do is go over in your head, or maybe with the use of some research material, what you know about the land between here and Ravenna, and what you know about New Berator and Duke Inadar. Would that be a safe bet?
I think that's a safe bet. So, yeah, that would be a good starting point.
So there's a couple of things I'll say. First, on the topic of so New Berator is one of the most he's probably the second most northern duchy in and we can bring up a map at this point, I think. The second most northern duchy in Ambria, to the very northeast where it borders the Ravens. And basically from Thistlehold, you travel east and south a fair bit, and there's kind of two routes you could take along that. We'll go over those in a second. New Berator itself and Ravenna specifically, and you know what? Give me a sort of cunning roll here. And because you can use some you can use like the Sun Temple Library and stuff to help you. So I'll give you a +5 on this, right?
I needed that. So just make it.
You just make it. Okay, well,
Yeah.
I'll give you kind of the bare bones then. New Berator has a reputation for being people from other duchies, especially the more religious ones and pre-Ospherian ones, tend to look down on New Berator because they see it as being quite corrupted by barbarian influence.
Yeah.
That's probably all you know. If you only just made the cunning roll, that's all I'll give you on New Berator. What I will say is that most people in Ambria know the name of Duke Inadar because he is part of House Kohinoor, part of the Queen's house. He is the son of the Queen's twin brother, who died trying to rescue her from the Dark Lords when she was held captive by them in the war in Alberator. Ergo, he's quite young. You've heard him referred to as young Duke Inadar. You don't know how young he is because you only just rolled over your cunning, but you know he's young. He has a reputation of being quite politically savvy. And his duchy has a reputation of being, depending on your point of view, friendly with the barbarian clans or corrupted by the barbarian clans. Okay. So that's essentially it. As you can see there's quite a way to go. Thistlehold is in the kind of northwest of the map there. It's quite difficult to see the roads because they are just kind of pale lines. But if I read these out to you, you can kind of have a think about it, make a decision. And as I said in the chat before we went live, I hope you pick one of the routes because otherwise I'm a bit fucked. But I think you will. I think it does make it kind of made sense in my head. So hopefully it'll make sense to Anton as well. If you want to take the other one, we'll take the other one. I'll just have to play with things on the fly. So the safer and slightly longer route, not that long, but longer, but slightly longer route, would be to go from Thistlehold southwest to Temple Wall. Temple Wall is a very large settlement, possibly the second or third largest settlement in Ambria itself. It is as you can see there, that duchy is called Prios's Domain because Temple Wall is the home of the Curia of the Sun Church, and the order of the Sun Knights as well. And important to remember at this point, they are still the Sun Knights. They have not yet split off from the church. So you would go there kind of along the pilgrim roads. You would then take a road south again. Oh no, you wouldn't actually. You would take the road east and then break off south to go around the south of Seragon Forest and towards Odal. You then go down to Kaldai and then take the road to the north east to Ravenna. Okay, and like I say, it's definitely safer because it's further into the heart of Ambria. The roads are more well traveled. Now, disadvantage is that it's slightly slower, and going into more public roads might actually not be what you want if you want to be as unnoticed as possible in your travels. So the other option would be to take the same road out of Thistlehold, go to Gorinda, but then strike northeast. Move along the edge of the forest by Dardal, Lorimor, Castor, go round the east of Saragon Forest, and then get to Ordal and effectively follow the same route. Now, I was surprised by this because I did measure it. It is actually slightly faster than the other route, which it looks more direct to go through Temple Wall, but it's actually, there's not a lot in it, though. You're looking at like probably at most a day's difference, if that, in the travel. Now, obviously, this is probably less safe because the roads are nearer to Davakar, but they are quieter, so it has that to it. There are also two things I can think of that are a distinct advantage to that route. Number one, Anton has traveled that route before as far as Castor, in reverse, obviously, coming from Castor to Thistlehold, but you know those roads because you traveled them before. Secondly, you have potential allies in Castor who, should you be in trouble by that point, it's possible you could call on them.
Yeah.
So those are two big advantages I see in that route. He says, trying not to lay it on too thick. If you want to go via Temple Wall through the Ambrian Heartlands, do it, and I will figure it out.
No, but I think I am happy with that sort of northernmost route, and I think that would make sense for Anselm as well, because, like, although safety is always a concern for Anselm, like the mission is important here, and going via Temple Wall, the chances of him having to explain what he's bloody doing increase massively, because inevitably he's going to bump into church folk there. So
potentially church folk he knows.
Right, yeah. So, and it's slightly slower. So I think that the northern route does make sense.
Yeah. I think the thing for me more than anything is that he's traveled it before.
Yeah.
And that immediately, I mean, he's definitely gone between Temple Wall and Thistlehold before as well anyway. But I think it does make sense. Okay, that's cool. I'm glad. Hopefully that wasn't railroady, because as I say, if you did want to take the other way, I would do it.
No, that's fine.
Okay. All right. So with that in mind, we will pick up on that morning at the South Gate. Anton, you're presumably kind of walking there from an early rise at dawn. Most of the streets of Thistlehold are empty. They're only kind of, people are just starting to move around at this time. It is we're definitely in the second half of winter at this stage. I think not right at the end as we are kind of further along the campaign. But there is kind of like a light dusting of snow drifting from the sky, and the sky is it's only just really dawn, so it's barely even light. You're moving around in like a twilight in the kind of like slushy, snowy mess of Thistlehold streets. Your boots are already starting to get soaked through by the time you reach the stables. There are a couple of stable attendants there with lanterns, kind of like prepping horses and kind of like looking around blearily for kind of customers, of which there are very few. In fact, when you walk up to the stables, there are only two individuals visible there. One is a Templar, kind of very visibly a Templar in tabard and armor with a long sword, sort of pinned to their hip. And can you roll vigilant, please, for when you see that Templar?
I think I might have failed that, actually. Yeah, it's a fail.
Okay, no problem. The Templar, for their part, kind of as soon as they see you, starts to kind of stride in your direction with a kind of like raised hand. It looks like a hand of greeting, not like a hand of halting or anything like that. Okay. The other person is a man in their late 20s with kind of a rough look. They have several traps hanging off their horse as they're kind of like starting to load them, and they seem to be they're in rough gear. They look like maybe a forester or a trapper, but not an overly well equipped one. And you know what? Let's let their player describe what else they want to describe about them.
Yeah. So he's got kind of lank, sort of greasy, shoulder-length hair. He's stubbly. He looks like he stinks, and I think if you get close to him, you will find that he does.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. I had thought of him as if you ordered Aragorn off Wish.com.
Excellent. There we go. So obviously this individual is kind of busying themselves around their horse, and you don't know who they are. The Templar, however, I'm assuming are you going to kind of stop for the Templar to engage with them?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. The Templar kind of walks up and sketches a nod to you and says, "Father Anton, are you well?"
Very well, thanks. Do I recognize this person?
You do not.
Okay.
And they kind of register this, and they look at slightly disappointed, but in any case, he nods. He's quite young with a sort of shock of blonde hair, and he says, "I have a note for you from." He doesn't make it clear who it's from, and a package. She said to read the note first. Okay. Yes, I will remain in case you have any questions.
I will take the note and open it with my in a way that like neither the novice nor this Wish Aragorn can see what is
absolutely in it. I can't remember if you've seen DeSaber's handwriting before, but it is a very finely penned sort of note, and it reads, "Father, in lieu of being able to supply you with direct protection, I enclose an artifact that will grant the sun's warmth, as well as other aid in dire circumstances. Also enclosed are notes from the Ordo Magica on its use. It was acquired by the church in auction from Northmen, who gave an accounting of its discovery along with the artifact for a decent price. I had intended to grant it you, but wanted to ensure its safety by examining it myself first. Imagine my surprise upon reading the account of the Northmen in the small hours of this morning. Prios provides, and sometimes his granting of gifts can be delayed, but never thwarted." The kind of package is kind of like, it's basically a large linen that's like been wrapped around a small object. It also has a bundle of like notes kind of stuffed inside it. And even a cursory glance at them will tell you they're like, or essentially the Order Magic has studied this artifact and has details of what its capabilities are in some very poorly written, scratchy notes.
Sure. I think for now I will just bundle that into my pack, and I will wait for like a better opportunity to inspect it and read about it. So absolutely. I will thank the novice for coming.
As you do so, the novice kind of I should say novice because I don't think that applies to a junior Templar. Okay. So the Templar. Although I may have referred to Alindra as a former Templar novice, so maybe it does. The Templar kind of nods and says, "It is many days' travel to Ravenna, Father. Have you everything you need?"
Believes.
I am Ian. You hear that?
Sort of ears prick up.
Yeah, I believe I have everything I need. I'm fairly used to longer expeditions around these parts. Thank you for your assistance.
Of course, Father. I'm sure you can keep yourself safe. Your actions in Davakar and in Thistlehold are well noted. She asked me to ensure you are safely away. I will remain here and see you out of the gates.
Appreciate that.
You go into Resenia, priest.
That is my direction of travel.
Temple Wall or North Road?
I've given this some consideration, and I think I will be choosing the North Road.
Dangerous road, that. Might be in need of some company.
I would be interested to know what direction of travel you have, and if you are going all the way to Avenia yourself, the purpose of your visit.
I am headed east, as it happens. Skirting the south of the forest, a road I've walked many times. I have business out in the Ravens.
Okay. Then you face a journey even longer than mine.
The Templar is very suddenly and quietly much closer than he was a moment ago. What is your name, sir?
Iamian, sir. Monster hunter at your service.
I'm sure you are most capable. It is good to travel with another. The Sun Temple is pleased that one of its favored sons will be alongside you. A man who we know the name of, and that you will no doubt provide the best protection you can.
Oh, always do my best for a man of Prios, sir.
The Sun Temple will be pleased to see that is true. The Templar steps away a bit again, and he's just watching you.
I am in. You said your name was Monster Hunter?
That's right. Many such fell beasts lurk under the boughs of Davakar. Ambria needs protection, and I am that protection.
I am all too familiar with the dangers of Davakar, and I do think that there is something to be said for safety in numbers upon the roads in this part of the world. So if you were traveling east and you are willing to take the north roads, then we can travel together.
We're both headed the same way. I don't see why not.
Then let us make our way.
We have an accord.
As you mount your horses, the Templar steps further to one side, and he kind of raises his hand again to you, Anton, and gives you a nod. And then as both of you kind of ride out of the south gates, kind of creaking open for the first time in the day, to reveal kind of snow-dusted meadows and fields to the south of Thistlehold, the Templar locks his gaze with Iamian and just watches you ride out behind Anton. And out onto a road you've traversed many times, the road south to Blackmore. And indeed, before half an hour is done, the road is full of the usual labour travelling to Thistlehold first thing in the morning. As the snow settles on the fields and scrubland that border the road, the latter scrubland visibly increasing as one's gaze turns north to where Davakar sits darkly on the horizon. Are you striking up any kind of particular conversation as new travellers together on your way? In fact, Iamian, you know what? Can you give me a cunning roll, please? How long have you been in Thistlehold? It's entirely up to you.
Ooh,
I think we said you come from like west of Thistlehold, right? But like, did we say that? I think
it's from kind of around Thistlehold rather than
yeah, not too far.
I think Iamian's probably it's probably been quiet over the winter.
Mm.
Yeah,
so you
but
kind of
yeah, it's
hole
like
up in Thistlehold or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
In that case, give me a cunning roll at a +5.
Cunning roll +5. That is a fail.
Okay.
Good
Then
start.
you are blissfully unaware of the identity of Anton.
Fair.
Which leads me back to my question of any conversations, because obviously the conversation might start differently if you know who he is.
I don't think Iamian's going to offer up very much himself.
That's
He's
fair.
just going to be kind
That's
of
fair.
scanning the forest line and just looking terribly serious and monster huntery.
I think that Ansel would spend maybe like the first couple of hours just kind of like weighing up Iamion and just like seeing like if I can work out what like how useful he is. Like is he super alert? Is he like constantly scanning for any danger? Like obviously noting how that he's been quite quiet, like those kinds of things. So Anton will leave it for a little bit before starting up some conversation.
Absolutely. In that case, before any serious conversation starts, and while you're still between Thistlehold and Blackmore, in the road in front of you, almost kind of barring the way, is a small group of barbarians who definitely look to be from Blackmore, and seem to be in the middle of negotiations to buy something from a herbalist who has briefly stopped to hawk their wares from their pony at the side of the road. The clan folk seem quite, as you approach, they seem quite dubious of the quality of the merchandise, but in need of some medicinal herbs, so willing to take a risk. One of them has a blood-soaked wrap around his head, and the group are pooling their ortegs and shillings to afford a herbal cure.
I guess Anton would just maintain a bit of a distance, but would probably slow up just to see what this tradesperson has on sale.
All right. Well, at this point, I think we need a bit of patter, Chris, and maybe a character description.
Yeah. So Carmi's kind of a very he's wearing what is effectively a witch hunter's cloak or a witch hunter's long coat, but it seems oddly lumpy and he seems very thin underneath it. He's kind of rummaging around in a bag and kind of giving a bit of somewhere between having legitimate difficulties and offering the kind of the salesman's performance as he addresses the Northman. And he's kind of like, well, if you'd been a week earlier, I had plenty because it was fresh then. Now it's gone. I can get you some Mug's Bane. I can get you... Look, this should do the job. He pulls out kind of a small kind of herbal, kind of already kind of in flower, but clearly has seen better days. So, yeah, this is from... I just got this a week ago. It should still be good.
And how much are you? I can't remember what the actual cost of a herbal cure is. Probably one of our herbal cure users.
The actual,
can tell me.
I have it on screen. It is actually a whole thaler, but this is not officially licensed herbal cure, and is going for like he'll be kind of angling for like 20 shillings if he's lucky.
Sure. Isn't 20 shillings 2 thaler?
Is it? God, no. I didn't think so.
Yeah, it's 10 I think it's 10 ortegs to a shilling and 10 shillings to a thaler, right?
Well, he'll try and get 5 shillings then, but he's not holding out much hope.
Sure. Yeah, the barbarians don't seem too happy about that, but they are kind of like counting out their money. Is there going to be any interjection in this from Anton? I mean, it's fine if there isn't.
I think Anton might just give Amion a a sort of like a nod of like, hang on, let's just stop here for a second. And Anton may just check his pack and just see how many herbal cures he's got before maybe wandering over just to have a look and a quick conversation.
Sure. Well, obviously, it's up to you how many herbal cures you have. You've no doubt got those noted down, assuming you, with the mental arithmetic of rewinding. But yeah.
So Anton does actually have quite a few, but he might see if there's anything else on sale that looks interesting.
What kind of other things do you have on sale, Chris?
So there's nothing else that's out. It's very much kind of a price and itinerary on request situation. So he's kind of, but if you're skillful with your eyes, you can see that inside the bag is basically stuffed full of kind of mushrooms and greenery and kind of bits and pieces, some of which you might recognize as coming from further into the forest.
Okay. Okay. I think that Anton might inquire about any sort of elixirs to help with poison.
Antidotes, yeah.
Antidotes, yeah. Thank you. Any antidotes available?
Oh, I don't have the antidotes, but I have the makings of them. Where are you headed?
Well, I'm sort of heading eastwards, but it was just an idle curiosity.
Well, look, you're not going to get to another place that sells them until, God, halfway to Castor. I'm going east myself. I can tag along, and if we strike camp tonight, I can probably put one or two together for you.
Oh, okay. And how much would you be charging for those?
Can I maybe make a kind of perception roll to see if Anton looks made?
Yeah, I think that'd be a cunning roll. I think that's
Cunning
definitely
roll,
a
yeah.
cunning roll. Yeah.
Yes, and I pass it. So you're basically jangling, Anton.
Yeah, well, I think he's like, well, Anton has got a little bit of money, right? And he is a priest, and he looks like a, you know what? I think your flail's probably apparent slung on your horse as well, right? And it's a pretty good quality one. Yeah.
Well, look, we can. For a man of yourself, I can probably do a good quality antidote for about $1.
$1.
How is that against market value out of interest?
That is bang on market value because I'm not pressing my luck.
Yeah, it may be a bit more than you'd expect to be sold it from a peddler on the road, but if you went to the market in Thistlehold, it would cost you $1.
Yeah. I might just ask, having overheard the previous conversation, I might just ask about the freshness of the ingredients. Have you been out foraging for such things recently?
Just back, came out yesterday. Only just rejoined civilization, my friend, father. I'm kind of. Carmine's kind of looking around to make sure he's kind of in the process of closing the sale with the Northerners, because that's obviously the priority here.
Well, the Northerners, for their part, they've counted out their coin, and one of them says in quite harshly accented Ambrian, merchant, only 4 shillings.
Well, let's see what we can do for 4 shillings. He will put the kind of the nice, somewhat nice looking herb back in his pouch and have another quick rummage around.
What do you produce?
So no flowers on this one. Another couple of sprigs of kind of material that sometimes you will see hanging out of a herbal cure. He's not fleecing anyone. So wrap these up good. Yeah,
buyer beware.
It's just
sort of stuff.
Honestly, it's not even that the output's going to be any different. It's just an attempt to maybe get a wee bit more money from somebody. Might be an opportunity for a good deed there, Mike. So basically, you want to mush these down, get them wet, wrap them in cloth, press them to the wound. 4 shillings.
Can I ask about the state of the injured party here? Like, is it looking like quite a mortal wound, or is it?
No, but he's clearly kind of bleeding from the temple, and still bleeding like a little bit, and he looks definitely a bit dazed. They are speaking Carrot.
Okay.
So you can talk to them in Carrot if you want.
Yeah, I will just step in and make up the difference what they need for the full herbal cure. And I'll turn to Carmine and say, and I will take you up on the offer of travel and antidotes. They seem to come quite useful around these parts, unfortunately.
Yes, quite.
So you hand over an extra shilling then.
Yeah,
that the group needs. The one who's wounded kind of looks at you dumbly and blinks a little bit, but one of their companions, the one who spoke the broken Ambrian, kind of turns to you with eyes of surprise and some suspicion. And have you spoken to them in their language yet?
I haven't. No, I spoke to Carmine about it, not them. Okay. But I will just say, there's something in pretty broken Carrot about how, don't thank me, thank the sun, or something like that.
The Carrot who was kind of like gathering the money kind of looks at you and kind of like bows slightly in a kind of gesture of respect and says, "Thank you, Ambrian. We will give a prayer to the life giver in your honor." You will definitely know this, because why wouldn't you? Life giver is the name the barbarians have for their undoubtedly not at all related to Prios, sun god.
Right. Yeah. Okay.
Although you know what? Give me a cunning roll, actually.
No, I've been rolling terribly.
Welcome
to Anton's adventure.
Let's try and
it's
make
been
it
3 years.
You literally roll no successes in this entire side quest. Let's try and make it so it's that. Okay, the barbarians kind of walk away with the good herbal cure, and they're kind of like, clearly they're going to apply it when they kind of get to Thistlehold and get their friend to sit down. One or two of them kind of look back at you with kind of a look of surprise on their face that someone's just given them a shilling for no reason. Yeah.
Okay.
Well, fortune follows well this morning, Father. May I have your name? Mine is Carmine.
Carmine, nice to meet you. And Tom.
I am Eon. Seems we have ourselves the beginnings of an adventuring party.
At least a travel party. Let's keep the adventures to a minimum.
As you wish.
Can I see if I know Anton?
Sorry, have you changed your character or?
Shut up.
Strong Steo vibes. Well, how much have you been around Thistlehold recently?
Thistlehold's kind of his base camp, even though he can't afford to live there. It's where he goes to sell normally.
Okay, then let's say a cunning +4, shall we? You knew who this guy was as soon as he walked up to the group.
Might sit on that for a while then. Father Anton, well, pleasure to meet you both. And thank you for making up that difference there. It's you try to avoid Blackmore because no one can afford anything. Bless them.
Yeah, I'm aware of Blackmore, and in my experience in these parts, when you're on the roads, you need that help sometimes.
Something should be done about the place. They can't keep all the undesirables in the different duchy. It's gonna cause turmoil.
Yes, it's a messy situation. Speaking of which, I'm quite keen to put some miles between myself and Blackmore. Onwards.
East, is it?
The initial road at least leads to the southeast. Just a few hours later, you go past Blackmore. It hasn't changed in any way. Still, essentially a colossal refugee camp, with the drifting smell of unwashed masses and refuse drifting over the road as you pass it. The road south to the next major settlement, which is called Gorinda, will take you under 2 days, but not much under 2 days. So there'll be a bit of a mix in this session of hopping between big travel-y stretches and then seeing if we want to do some roleplay or whatever. For your first night's rest on the road, you are in an area where there's a number of roadside inns sort of available between Temple Wall and Thistlehold for the large part. Do you want to save money and kind of camp somewhere overnight, or do you want to take up one of these inns? All of you, before you answer that question, can all of you roll cunning? Carmine take a +1 and Anton take a +3. Jesus. Okay, never mind then. Nope. Never mind. The question just stands. Are you going to camp or try and find an inn for the night?
I think Anton would strongly prefer an inn and would be making noises in the group to suggest, it's getting dark. Should we stop at the nearest inn soon?
Did you bring a tent?
I think Anton does have like a bedroll and tent with him and stuff like that. Because we'd have that for our Davocowering. So, yeah. I'm guessing that...
You've definitely got camping material, yeah.
Yeah.
Right, so Iamion's glancing at his camping gear packed up on the horse and just assuming that that's what's going to happen. Like, it's not. I don't think an inn has occurred to him.
I'd be okay with an inn. I've camped enough this last couple of months. It's been a rough winter.
We're living the high life, are we?
Say the middle life, in fairness.
Well,
I mean, you could always camp nearby, or just ask to stay in the hayloft or something. Inns often let people do that for much less money.
Yeah, so that's probably what Iamion would do.
Okay, well, you soon find yourself on your first night's journey at an inn called the Spotted Goats, which is moderately pleasant. You know, its main trade is pilgrims, but pilgrims and travelers to Thistlehold. So it's fairly simplistic but well appointed. If you want an actual bed, it will cost you 5 ortegs. And if you want just a hayloft, that's 1 orteg. And the company of several foul-smelling other travelers, probably.
This is fine.
I'll pay up. Yeah. I'll get a bed.
Sure. So, with that in mind, you have a pleasant overnight stay at the Spotted Goats and set off again the next day. As I said, it will take you a lot of the next day to reach Gorinda, and this is what we'll start doing is talking about when and where you stop overnight, because we're going on quite the journey here. If it's going to take you about 3/4 of the day to reach Gorinda, do you think you would stay overnight in Gorinda or carry on?
I think probably stay overnight. I think that Anton, right. So basically, Anton's thing is that he's reluctant to camp until he knows with these two until he knows a little bit more about them.
Sure, absolutely. Well, how about then on the stretch of the road to Gorinda? Shall we have a little bit of? We could do it via roleplay. Or you could just do it via just talking about talking, if you get what I mean. Like what kind of questions or inquiries are you kind of making of each other in your kind of second day of getting to know you traveling?
Sure. Okay. I guess the first thing that Anton might look forward to start up a conversation with Iamion is about like any weapon that he's carrying. Did we talk about that? I don't think we talked about that.
We did not.
But his weapon is very apparent. It has to be. It's huge.
Yeah. Iamion's main weapon. It's quite obvious is a halberd.
Okay.
Which I like. I don't know how you carry a halberd on a horse.
Strapped
Carefully.
to the side of the horse.
Yeah, right down the side.
As you would with like a lance, it would be like an angle like that.
This is my old faithful. This is what I use to skewer the freakish boar.
At the risk of and I think Stephen will agree with me because we kind of like worked a bit on this, the background of this character. Anton, I don't think Carmine can probably recognize it, but Anton, can you give me a cunning roll, please? And given your familiarity with weapons, is that a failure again?
I've rolled 15 and above on everything that I've rolled today.
Good stuff. Well, that just means that all you've got a success is to come, right?
Yeah, that's how it works. I'm also seem to be bringing other people down to my level, which I'm also enjoying.
Yeah.
Sorry.
I have my trusty halberd, my trusty traps.
Yeah, I can believe that you know how to use that as well.
Oh yes.
Had it long?
About 6 feet. Sorry. I'm sorry. Yeah. Since I was big enough to hold one. It's traveled with me many a mile, seen many a thing.
It looks well used. You must be successful at what you do.
If you've got a monster that he's dealing with, you call old Iamion here. He's not at all old.
The decision to add a West Country accent was inspired, by the way.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Do you have much trade in the forest, or do you stick to the plains, Iamion?
Well, there's generally better hunting in the forest, isn't there? Yeah. Around the edges, the settlements there need protection from the horrors that lurk within the shadows.
Are you getting a license when you go into the forest, or are you avoiding attention?
Oh, Father, none of us would ever go into the forest without proper paperwork.
Ask me no questions, Father. I'll tell you no lies.
See, to me, you called him a Wish.com Aragorn, but so far he's a Wish.com Quint from Jaws to me.
Sure, why not?
I can respect that arrangement, Iamion.
That's the thing about abominations. They got dead eyes, doll's eyes. So, do we want to do any more talk before Gurinder, or do we want to kind of move on to that?
So generally speaking, I think we could somewhat like Iamion's kind of happy to talk and to answer questions if asked. He's going to be happy enough to make references to his monster hunting achievements. They don't sound that impressive.
Sure.
Carmine will be engaging in some shop talk with Iamion about how terrible the winter's been and how crappy southern Davokar is on occasions.
Yeah. You've been in there foraging.
Oh, it's the best place to go. Well, not in winter, but I've got to make money somehow.
Dangerous trade.
Not as dangerous as hunting. It's okay. Mushrooms don't fight back normally. Some of them do.
I've heard tell.
There's some very expensive ones now. I've never found them. You have to go very deep now. Some of them go for tens, hundreds of $1,000.
I mean, indeed, technically speaking, Last One Night Pitch made his fortune and his dukedom by securing herbs, albeit for a very specific purpose and a very specific customer. So, yeah, let's talk about the settlement of Garinda, which you approach as afternoon starts to wear on your second day of travel. It is a modestly sized baronial town, unsurprisingly affiliated with House Garinda, who have significant ties to both the Sun Temple and Thistlehold, notably Last Fortnight Pitch's second in command, kind of chief administrator and bureaucrat sort of the town is a member of House Garinda. And given this and the proximity to Temple Wall, it is unsurprising to find a considerable presence as soon as you enter the town of both the Sun Temple and the Templars. Clearly, it is what you would refer to as a church town, where the guards have Prios's son emblazoned on their uniforms, and there are many members of the clergy and Templars walking around the town. All of which seem, at least to consider your little group with a bit more hospitality, given that one of you is a priest. I'm assuming what we're doing in Garinda, I'm assuming from Antom's perspective, what you're doing is staying under the radar as much as humanly possible. So maybe going to an inn, paying for a room, and then eating and drinking and going to the room.
Yeah, and also probably a pretty ropey looking inn as well. Not one where there's obvious like imminent violence, but yeah, somewhere that's pretty the cheaper end of the market. So
yeah, absolutely, and there's plenty of them. As I said, it's like there's not so many pilgrims here as there is coming up south to Temple Wall, but there's still some, and any kind of like pilgrim focused inn is going to be cheap and cheerful at the best. However, it is a town inn, and that's going to cost you a little bit more. So a town inn for anyone who wants to stay in it will cost 1 shilling for the cheapest. And other than just sleeping rough Iamian, that's going to be your option, basically.
Cool. I will take a room.
Okay, so there we go. So if we all lose 1 shilling, please. And then, Carmi, Iamian, are you sharing Antom's proclivity for a quiet night, or?
I think I'll hit the pub a bit, kind of see what the general whispers are, and maybe taking a card game or two.
Sure, absolutely. Let me think of what the whispers would be at this point. I'm not sure there would be, and there definitely wouldn't be anything relating to the events of the Witch Hammer. There would still be kind of talk of the aftermath of the events of Wrath of the Warden in Thistlehold, and the usual like gossip about the infighting of dukes and other noble houses. Yeah, sure. But you know what? How about this? Can you give me a vigilant roll?
Mm-hmm. Ooh.
Yeah, you definitely catch briefly a small group of Templars, kind of off-duty Templars in the corner of the tavern, who are whispering quite intensely among themselves, and they all seem to be examining the pages of a book. You don't get to see what the book is, but you see that it's definitely not the central kind of like testament of Prios. But they seem quite intent on this, and as soon as they become aware that you and maybe even a couple of other people have kind of gazed over at them curiously, they slam the book shut, finish their drinks, and get up and leave.
No, that's not suspicious at all.
Wonder what that's about. So there we go. The rest of the evening passes quietly, and you rise and start your journey again the next morning. And let's bring up that map to remind ourselves as where we're going. So you are currently here in Gorinda. Ooh, that's being a bit funny about my mouse. Oh god, never mind. Oh god, and now it thinks it's there all the time. That's terrible. Let me try that again. Oh no! It's forever. It's the forever mouse. Okay. Let's try that again, shall we? So you're going to have to do this without the benefit of the mouse. So you're in Gorinda, and now your path lies to the northeast, where you will take the road to the edge of the forest to Dardor, and then along the edge of the River Eonor all the way to Castor, and then proceed onwards in Seragon. So you set off the next morning. The road to Dardor should take pretty much exactly 2 days of travel. And the first thing you note, just a couple of hours away from Gorinda, is that the road from Gorinda to Dardor is considerably less traveled and notably more ill-maintained than the road south. And the sense of traveling into a wilder land is palpable. Occasionally, something more like forest wildlife can be seen. Small herds of boars being frequently seen digging in the frozen soil away from the road. And as night falls at the end of that first day of travel towards Dardor, the sound of wolves howling in the distance can be heard. You have not passed a roadside inn. So there is another option.
Guess it's camping tonight.
It is.
Right.
Well, they'll kind of is just find a nice kind of flat spot and kind of indicate there's as good as any before the light goes.
Absolutely. Why don't we all roll cunning, and maybe one person will succeed?
Let's do that. I'm not that person.
Well, the herbalist, you know what, Carmine, you're used to looking for like little copses of woodland around to try and find little like herbs and growths of various kinds, and you spot one just to the north of the road as light is beginning to fail, and wouldn't you know it, it's actually got quite a large what in the light seems like quite a large boulder, kind of like the acts as a sort of part shelter against the wind, because it is pretty cold, let's not forget. Amongst the trees, it's a little warmer. I'm assuming we're setting up a fire, you know, that kind of thing.
Yeah. Iamian's going to make a big show of kind of pacing around the area, like, I don't know, maybe kind of sniffing at droppings and trying to get a sense of whatever wildlife is around. But I'm quite happy to have failed the cunning roll and not noticed anything.
Sure. I mean, I'm happy for you to make a cunning roll to see.
Yeah, okay, sure, why not? That's a 19. Yeah,
yeah. You've got
this is fine.
I mean, you can confidently say there are wolves in the area.
Okay,
everyone heard them.
Yeah, there are wolves at large.
I would like to come good on my promise of an antidote and make my alchemy roll.
Cool. Because... Yeah. Is that also there's so many cunning rolls? Is that also a cunning roll, I'd imagine?
Oh my god, why did I not write this down? Yes, it's a cunning roll. Yeah, he succeeds.
Mm-hmm. So what is that? Is that a novice or a moderate antidote?
That is a novice antidote, which will reduce a poison by 1 step. So if it's a D6 poison, it becomes a D4 poison. And it now belongs to you, Anton, if you hand over that Fowler.
Can do.
Excellent. Yeah. So the herbalist kind of, presumably with a pestle and mortar and other kind of like tools of your trade. And the deal is done.
Yeah.
Anton will give it a bit of an inspection, a bit of a sniff, and give a nod of appreciation at the craft that's gone into it before sewing it in my pack.
So, any more conversation around the campfire tonight?
I think we're definitely posting watches.
Yeah. Iamian, this is going to be good. Iamian's also going to set some traps up around the perimeter of where we are. Successfully setting up a trap involves passing a cunning roll. So, shall I make a few cunning rolls for you?
Yeah, well, you've got 3 traps, is that right?
I do have 3 traps.
Yeah, so make 3 rolls and see how many of them you can successfully set up. Your cunning's 10, I think, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
2 out of the 3 traps get set up.
There we go. Yeah, you set them up around the perimeter. Hopefully no one walks into them. Anton, roll vigilance.
I will let people know where they are.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's
Yeah, no, that seems perfectly sensible. And then I hear like Carmine and Anton mention a watch.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Anton will offer to take the first one.
Fair enough. Well, you stay up for a few hours, Anton. Why don't you give me a vigilant roll while you're doing that? And you know what? You're in the very immediately in the area. Take a +2 to it.
I think I really needed that +2. Did I make it? Yes, I did make it, and I did need a +2.
Okay, there we go. As you are settled down by the fire, kind of like maybe going through your pack, might this even be I'd imagine you probably looked through the pack from Desabre already.
I was going to say that I think that Anton would be like sort of quite methodically going through it, and like last night in the inn would have been the prime opportunity to do that because there might have been a bit more privacy there. But
Yeah.
I'm happy to, if now is a good time to talk about it. I'm happy.
It's a good time narratively, right? It's a good time
Sure.
narratively. And you know from your vigilance as well, you notice that what Carmine had mistaken for a boulder is in fact a very large, intentionally hewn block of stone that has a number of very faded and really quite illegible bits of Symbaric script over it. Less usual south of the forest border, but not unknown. After all, Indaros is built on an old Symbaric ruin. So, just a note of interest. They are nowhere near legible for you to actually translate them or read them. You're on mute.
Did I just mute and unmute myself instantly? Anyway,
yes.
Have we seen anything else around that like looks like this in the immediate vicinity? No. Like, there's no like another.
No, nothing like that. Okay, and you would see it as well. Apart from this little copse, it's quite clear.
Okay.
So
fine.
As for the so you took a look at the Order Magica notes, and now you find yourself unfurling the wrapped artifact that Desabre had granted to you. And what you find staring at in your palm is a small, and let me see if there's more of a direct description of it, which I probably should have noted beforehand. No, it doesn't say. What you see is and you're quite at first you think it's just kind of like because you're sat near the fire, because as you're unfurling the artifact you can feel a warmth on your hands, and inside you find a small stone around kind of it sits nicely in the palm of your hand. It looks to be kind of intentionally smoothed almost into a kind of, it's a circular shape, almost into a kind of like saucer, kind of flying saucer type shape, but smoother and more rounded than that might be. Its color is a sort of very boring grayish white, but it has, even in the light of the campfire, you can see it has a dull orangey sort of glow deep within it that seems to be the sort of warmth rolling off it. Anton, you've seen this before. In point of fact, you recovered it from Davakar. It is the stone that when you went into the ruin on your way back from Davakar to Castor, you discovered 2 artifacts in a ruined, a kind of ruined temple.
The cursed monkey paw.
Yeah, well, a mummified hand, but yes, and this was granted to the barbarians allies you were traveling with, because you just split it. And it seems they sold it to the church, and now Desabra's given it to you.
Huh.
As she says, Prios's providence can sometimes be delayed, but maybe not avoided.
I will have a bit of a chuckle to myself at how this has come to be. Great.
The notes of the Ordo Magica say that even if you do not bond to this, which the notes refer to it as a sunstone, and even if you do not bond to it, it is a source of warmth constantly, enough to like warm yourself even on an icy day, be kind of comfortable. If you do bond it to yourself, which mechanically, I'll just remind everyone, is either 1 XP or 1. Is it 1 XP or more than that? I think it's 1. Anyway, it's either XP or a point of corruption to bind something to yourself. It can do a number of things. Some of which are involved around it's essentially seems to be primarily a tool for someone who has fire-based mystical powers to make them more powerful. But also it can be used apparently to just straight up set things on fire. And also it says that the reason why it has this powerful warmth is that a fire spirit is bound within it. And it says in times of crisis, you can actually shatter the sunstone, bring forth a fire spirit to aid you. That will destroy the sunstone, but as it says, at times of great need.
Okay.
I'll give you the full details.
Fine.
After we...
So this is potentially something that Anton could use to destroy the latter in a hurry if he needs to.
Oh, very much so. Yes.
If
you bind it to yourself, yes.
Yeah.
Which you could do. You would need a few hours to kind of focus on it. But
sure.
But
I don't think
you are learned in the ways of these things.
Yeah, I don't think I will do that tonight or just yet. But yeah, I will. Yeah. Now on watch is absolutely not the time to be pissing around with that. So
no, absolutely. Yeah. Okay. So with that in mind, you all wake up the next morning. Nothing happened during the night. Maybe let's say that where's my random roll dice? There's my random roll dice. Oh my god. Random roll dice. Good lord. I assure you there's a reason behind this. Let's say that Iamion, you heard kind of the howling of wolves in the distance in the night, but they evidently didn't come close enough to either sense your campfire or fall into your traps. And the next morning you wake up, traps are empty, but everyone is safe. And I assume we're traveling the next day northeast to Dardor.
Yeah.
Okay. About halfway through the day, you are wandering along the path, which is kind of getting sort of rougher and rougher as it travels to the north. It is more like a well-worn path now than it is a road, honestly. And you find yourself in need of kind of... You stumble across a stream, essentially, and feel like it would be good to water your horses. The stream is quite pleasant. It's next to another sort of copse of trees, obviously bare for this time of year, but the entire sort of copse has a sort of shallow meadow in the middle of it, carpeted with some kind of vivid blue winter blooming flowers. Karma, you're unsure of what they are in all honesty, but you can definitely gather a few if they strike your interest. It makes for quite a pleasant scene, especially given that the landscape has become a bit more wild and rugged and threatening as you've been moving north. And as you're partway through watering your horses, from a little further sort of upstream, you'd guess from the other side of the copse, kind of the other, if you were like a bit further up the road, perhaps where you'd come off to also find some fresh water, you hear a kind of cheerful whistling coming. Definitely, I wouldn't say not definitely human, but definitely humanoid.
I don't recognize those flowers at all. Never trust winter bloomers.
Some kind of strange siren song. Makes me wary.
That's whistling Amion. I'm sure it's perfectly normal.
Oh,
You
yeah.
have
That's what they all say.
you haven't seen a single traveler on the road northeast yet, by the way.
Okay. Doesn't sound too threatening to me. But no harm in being slightly careful.
I'll fetch me halberd.
Are you investigating it in any way or just being on guard?
I think I am. Yeah, we'll grab his halberd and go and have a look.
Sure. You emerge through the kind of like small brush of trees to the other side, where you see a man watering his horse in the same way that you are, and also maybe scooping up some water to drink himself. He is partially has kind of like the reins of the horse in one hand, and in the other he is resting and kind of holding himself up with a very long, quite powerful looking staff.
Whoa. Didn't see you there.
Hello there.
You traveling along this road? What way are you going?
We'd be heading east.
Ah,
Yourself?
I'm heading east all the way to Ravenia.
Oh. What a strange turn of fortune. Iamion's my name.
It's a bit Amian.
I'm headed in that direction myself, as are my travel companions.
So you have a priest of Prios with you. Good to meet you, Father. I'm sure your Prios will look down favorably upon your journey.
I do hope so. Matt, you're on mute.
It's okay. I was just insulting you. Sam, do you want to give us Rebrio's description?
It's quite a tall, young-looking guy. A little bit lanky. Has a kind of brown, white-spotted horse. He's wearing a warm-looking cloak with a few patches here and there, but generally in good condition. And kind of wool clothing and sort of quite distinctive features. A large nose, but looks friendly, smiling, and seems happy to see you all. And is going to kind of wander over and take a look at all your horses, almost ignoring the people, just to be like, "Oh, you got lovely horses here. It's a fine horse. What's his name?" Saying to Anton.
Oh,
You're
Matt,
on
you're
mute
mute.
there, Matt.
Yeah. I was going to say it's undoubtedly Antom's horse because the Amion and Carmi have bargain basement horses.
Yeah,
Whereas Antom's was paid for by Deceiver the Old. So
That is
it's
what I figured.
yeah.
No name for this one yet. Maybe I will be inspired to give it a name in due course.
They go twice
As
as
we
fast
make our
with the
journey.
name, Father. I'm telling you.
Well, speed is sometimes important, but safety is also. And also, for a man of my age, comfort on my journeys is also a factor.
It's a fair point. But a lovely horse nonetheless. I'm sure he'll serve you well. He'll serve you well in your journey.
Did you say that you're heading east to Ravenna?
Yeah. Been a day's travel so far. I don't know. I don't know these roads well, but I'm just trying to make it there. I'm heading through Castor, but I don't really want to stop for long. Yeah, it was. Speed is of the essence for me.
Well, if you don't know these roads, I would advise safety in numbers. Maybe the rest of us would not be traveling as fast as you by yourself, but out here and so close to the forest, a few more pairs of eyes and hands matter a great deal.
Well, I'd certainly be fortunate to have a priest of Prios with me to guide the blessed hand of Prios and to watch over me. I feel very fortunate to travel with your group.
'Tis the season for heading east, isn't it?
There's a lot of it about.
Don't hang a lantern on it. So, I'm assuming you are gathering forces and striking out for Dardor, which is only half a day's travel away now. And as the afternoon starts to wear on and the sun starts to dip below the horizon, you approach Dardoil. And long before you reach the wooden enclosure of the small town, you encounter crude and recent signs planted into the snow-dusted ground that simply read plague. As you get a short distance closer to Dardor, you can see that there is a caravan of merchants lit up by lantern light that are pulled up near the southwestern gate of the town, and they seem to be trading via a method of shouting from a distance and leaving goods at a healthy gap of 100 feet or so from the town, who seem to be sending out a tired but healthy looking teenage girl to pick them up. It seems quite a laboured and protracted affair, but clearly still worth it for the merchants and town folk.
Don't fancy the sound of that. Plague?
Something tells me we're not going to be in an inn tonight.
Another night's camping. I wonder, can we afford them some kind of aid? Anton, do you have any skill with plagues?
I'm something of a healer, but I don't know about plagues. What about yourself, Carmine? Do you not have a cure for this? Or a treatment for it, at least?
I might be able to treat one or two of them, but the whole town would be a week's work. We should find out what's going on.
We should.
I'll kind of roll up to the traders.
One of them, quite a relatively richly dressed man, not ostentatiously so, but certainly definitely a successful merchant with a kind of well-cropped beard. He's accompanied by a very sort of academic-looking woman with a big ledger book who kind of walks a step behind him. He says, "Greetings, travelers. You weren't trying to enter the town, were you?"
We were hoping for some lodgings, but it looks like we've hit some bad luck.
Oh, they are allowing no one past the walls, I'm afraid, friend, and by the sounds of it, a good thing too.
I saw the signs. What is the nature of the illness?
Some kind of sleeping sickness of some kind. People fall into repose, and some of them do not even wake up. But other symptoms as well. I will not get into here, but the symptoms of a digestive nature, if you understand me, Mr.
Karamai is my name.
Carmine, yes. Yes. Oh, good priest of Prios. Good afternoon, Father.
Good
Good
afternoon.
evening, I suppose. And you'll find companions as well. Obviously, you feel free to avail yourself of any of our goods. He kind of gestures backwards, and a couple of kind of younger members of the caravan, maybe relatives of his, or maybe just kind of like little child labor helpers that he has around, kind of like sort of unclip the side of a caravan and literally like open it up to like a little, what looks like a sort of storefront that he has there, which has quite a lot of goods on it, honestly. And it's only one of maybe about 5 or 6 caravans. Yeah, it's doubtful how much help it is to it's not really travelers' goods, you know what I mean? It's more kind of like townsfolk type things that normal folk might need every day or whatever. But there's some food and things like that
Nothing for me there, I think, friend, but we appreciate your information. Have you been in this area long?
We only just arrived earlier today, and I suppose we'll circle our caravan and camp here for the night, see if the townsfolk want anything else in the morning, and then I don't know. We've come all this way north. We were planning just to settle in Dardol for a couple of weeks, but I suppose we'll move on to Lorimore rather than just make the bloody journey back all the way to Templewall.
Right.
Kind of pulls quite a large. He's got kind of a large fur-lined robe and kind of like pulls it around himself a bit against the wind.
Yeah. Might turn to the rest of the group and just ask about our plans for the night, presumably to pitch a camp nearby as well.
Replenish my rations from these fine gentlemen and roll out the bedroll.
Oh, please do, boy, attend to this traveller.
Much obliged.
Like a small boy kind of comes up, takes your order essentially, and picks things out for you.
Yeah, some travel food and some fruit, whatever they got, like
some cheap and cheerful food.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Iamion, would you do me the great pleasure of joining me on an early evening's walk?
Of course.
I'll kind of go down, Tom, kind of in a way where I'm not raising to Antom, not to Antom and the traders, basically.
Yeah, sure.
I'm going to engage in a quick circuit of the town to see if I can figure out anything that might be causing the plague externally. Just a hunch.
I think that's a very good idea, Caroline. I mean, happy to help in any way. I mean, we're here for the evening. There's still some light left.
I think... Rebia, what's your trade, sir?
I don't have much of a trade yet. I used to look after animals, but well, not so much anymore. Nothing to do with plagues. Best to stay away if you ask me. I don't go
well,
too
seeing as the good father here is a man of healing, would you look after the camp and let's say the three of us will make a quick circuit?
Of course, it'll be my pleasure. Just be careful.
As the three of you kind of walk away, the merchant comes over to you, Rebrio, and kind of rests a friendly hand on your shoulder and says, Now there, young sir, now your little group is welcome to circle up with us. We'd be glad for the blessings of a priest for the night. Terrible business inside of there. The townsfolk seem to suspect elves from the forest, but don't they always? Poisoning wells and such. But I noticed, I overheard you say you work with horses. Let me show you some fine liniment we have for sale. And he kind of basically tries to hawk you some horse supplies. Okay, Carmine, Iamian, and Antom, you're going to do a circuit of the town. It is getting dark, but it's not quite sundown yet. One thing you do notice is that beyond the northern walls of Dardor, not far away from it at all, is the River Eonor. Which is flowing swiftly and roughly as the winter is breaking in the forest. The road east carries on past Dardor. Indeed, it now lies, as far as you're aware, which Anton is very aware, having travelled it now lies basically along the banks of the river all the way to Castor. And it almost immediately seems to improve a little. Feel free, all three of you, to, I guess, make a vigilant roll to see if you notice anything else. Although I will dock, I think, 3 points because, as I say, it's getting dark.
I make it.
So you vigilant -3. Ooh,
mm-hmm.
That's a pass.
You've all passed, and one of you even got a 1. So I can confidently tell you, you don't see anything out of place.
Oh, I hit everything, but specifically you, Matt.
That's what I'm here for, apparently. It just nothing looks untowards, nothing looks out of place, you know.
Oh well, it was just a hunch after all. Still count as a good deed, Father?
We tried, didn't we?
Yeah, trying to help. That counts.
Yeah. I could maybe spare a herbal cure from my own reserves, but I don't know what good it would
I don't know
do.
what it will do against the poisoning.
It's not going to heal a whole town unless there's some kind of miracle involved.
If it were spring,
Looks
I could.
expectantly at Anton.
If it were spring, I could get. Look, these meadows are fantastic. In the spring, there's all sorts. The pollen is curative. It's incredible, but dead of winter.
And awfully close to the forest here.
Yeah.
It very much is. Even as the sun goes down across Ianor, you can see like the northern banks of Ianor are Davakar. It's looming there, a distinct presence just to the north of Dardor. In fact, if anything, it's actually slightly closer than it is to Thistlehold, which is a lot because you can literally just walk from the north gate to the borders of the forest in like a few minutes.
How wide and deep and fast is the river?
So it seems relatively deep. It's certainly fast right now. It's roaring quite loudly, as I say, running fast from kind of winter breaking and the snow melt deeper into Davakar. And kind of there's debris of various kinds. I mean, mostly deadfall, kind of rolling down it. In terms of its width, I'm terrible at gauging width. Let's call it. It's quite wide, but not massively so. Does 150 meters sound like a reasonable?
That's pretty huge, but
Is it? Because 100
Yeah.
meters is just a sprint.
Yeah,
Like
well, okay.
being able to cross it in, if you're fast enough in 10 seconds or 15 seconds doesn't make it sound that long.
If it was a racetrack and not a river, but yeah, okay. But
So John says 50 meters is a swimming pool. All right, okay. I'll revise that to 100 meters then.
okay, so reasonably substantial.
Yeah, it's a substantial.
Nothing's just like strolling out of the forest across a ford or anything. Like,
if it is, it's beyond your capability to worry about.
This may be completely irrelevant. Is it flowing east to west or west to east?
It is flowing towards Castor, so it's flowing west to east.
Okay.
It does not look all that fun to take a boat down right now. Especially not a smaller boat fit for 4 people. Unless you were a competent riversman.
You have completely shattered my understanding of the hydrology of this area.
Well, that might be because the River Ianor, and I did look up to see if this branch was still called Ianor, but both branches of the river are called Ianor. This river comes down from the mountains to the east, but then splits, and one part runs all the way west to Lake Volgoma, and the other almost turns and comes back to the east, which is why it's flowing west to east.
Wow. That river's looking spicy. There might be flooding downstream tomorrow.
should keep whatever's in the forest, though. Unless it's something really big.
Yeah. And there's not obviously anything in the river that is causing the plague. Should we return to camp before we find ourselves in total darkness?
Yes.
So you return to the camp. The merchants have kind of drawn up their caravans, and they have actually quite a nice fire going, more like a small bonfire than a campfire, really. There are quite a few, as I said, there's 5 or 6 caravans. I'd say there's, at least 20 or 25 people in their party. Considerable group of traders, really. And they make for quite a pleasant evening, actually. Once the merchant gets a little bit drunk, he's even willing to share some of their food with you for free. And it's actually probably the most pleasant evening you've had since you left Thistlehold. A couple of them No, it won't work because you have met him. They're accompanied by at least one minstrel who gives I did think about it, but then I thought no, because then it's a whole thing because you have met. I thought I'll just put him in as a cameo, but Tom does know him, so it would lead to more than it's worth. Who gives a fairly good performance. A few of them actually gather to you, Anton, for blessings of Prios. In fact, increasingly more of them as the night goes on and people get more drunk. And yeah, generally a quite a pleasant evening. In contrast, maybe, to the silence coming from the town.
Yeah. I'm sure they'll sleep well tonight. Sleeping sickness, they're probably mostly dead.
Oh, God. So, as dawn rises, the merchants express to you that they're probably going to carry on basically along your path, but there's absolutely no way you want to go with them unless you want to slow down considerably, because they will be moving at a much slower speed than you, and they will take 2 hours to pack themselves up in any case. So I'm assuming we're striking out east to Lorimore. As we can see on there, the road runs directly onside the River Eonor. And the River Eonor, once you're even a couple of hours past Dardol, it does narrow considerably. So maybe it's only around 60 meters or so now as you're walking alongside it. And the road does improve in quality as you travel, though it still seems quite quiet once you've moved far enough away from Dardol that you can't hear the traders and the town itself behind you. The travel between Dardol and Lorriman is 1.5 days worth. So again, I would ask the question: if you have half a day left when you reach Lorimore, are you going to stay there overnight, or are you going to carry on going?
I'd vote for carrying on. I'm trying to start saving a bit of money here.
I'd definitely vote for carrying on.
That makes a lot of sense. So in that case, we'll just we'll skip over this trip a little bit, other than to kind of talk about the landscape of it. So as I say, 1.5 days later, you find yourself in it's actually Lorimon, not Lorimore, as I discovered when I looked at bits of them. It's a misprint on the map because the key and various other things are called Lorimon, so it's called Lorimon. It is a bustling logging town that seems to have cleared a great deal of land north of the river, to the point at which it grows at first difficult and then impossible to actually see the borders of Davakar. All you can see is vast stretched out fields with kind of stumps of trees littering the ground everywhere. A number of these areas, the stumps are kind of been pulled up from themselves and dragged away to try and clear the land for farmland and meadowland. But there seems to be quite a bit of work still to go on that. Once you reach the settlement of Lorimore itself, you can see great barges of wood and other forest supplies departing downriver towards Castor. There seem to be a great number also of labourers and loggers packed into the ramshackle, low stone walls of the town. And even just passing by it during the day, you get definitely a somewhat rough frontier feel to it. As you go by on the path into the town, you see a fight break out between a group of individuals, some goblins, some Ambrians, some barbarians alike, and the town guards seem to have their hands full pulling them apart. Are we bothered? I seem to get the impression that we are not bothering with Loriman in any way whatsoever, and just kind of strolling past it. Is there anything? Is there anything more that you want from me about Loriman?
I would maybe like to do that kind of traditional exchange of news things with the guards on the way past, and try and figure out if they know about the plague.
Sure. Yeah, sure. Why don't you give me a persuasive roll? And I see no reason why they wouldn't be fairly friendly to you. They're probably bored. They're not. No, they're not bored because they're always busy. So just make a flat persuasive roll to me, please. Yeah, they are very much aware of the plague in Dardol. It's been going on for weeks, apparently.
They have no idea the cause either, I imagine.
No, they mentioned something about elves to you, but it's up to you how much you buy into that particular Ambrian propaganda. So, I mean, sometimes elves do fuck up Ambrian, so maybe it is true. But yeah, nothing in particular, and they don't have any particular news. There doesn't seem to be anything especially going on in the town of Lorimon at this sort of time.
I will let them know about the caravan that's probably going to arrive tomorrow.
One of them looks quite excited for that and kind of nudges one of the others and says she'll kind of tell her husband, and he'll be quite excited to find something new to buy. They look both busy and bored, which, to be fair, is quite a frequent expression on a city guard.
Too real, in fairness.
So, is there anything else we want from Lorimon, or are we just passing the logging town by and carrying on as much as we can?
Yeah, happy to keep moving.
Yeah, it's moving.
Yeah. Okay. In that case, folks, we are now on the road to Castor. We have half a day left before nightfall. The road to Castor is even further improved. And as nightfall starts falling, Anton, you recognize ahead of you a small market village with a ferry crossing over the Eonor on it, which you recognize as the ferry you took when you were striking south from Davakar and ended up in Castor. Davakar has been out of view since before you reached Lorimon, the entire time as you travel slowly but steadily away from the forest's edge. This market village is probably a good place to stay the night. Are you going to camp? Or there's probably no inn here, but there's probably a hayloft or two you can pay to stay in if you wanted to shed an Orteg for the privilege rather than camp.
Yeah, given it's probably the weather's probably pretty miserable and cold, so maybe it would inform just ask if there's shelter for the night.
And you've probably been kind of colder than even before now that there's no forest shelter to the north, and you're next to a rather rapid flowing river. That's probably going to, the spray off that is probably going to make your clothes slightly damp and make you even colder. So if you want to pay an Orteg for a hayloft for the night, please do.
Anton's been feeling quite toasty all of this time and has taken off his overcoat, but no, he's happy to stay in a hayloft.
Yeah, with the sunstone probably nestled in a pocket or something, right? Keeping you warm.
Let's go in the big flammable building full of flammable stuff with the thing that makes things catch fire.
Absolutely. You managed to each pay an Orteg for the use of a hayloft for the night. It's basically the ferrymaster's small stable. He doesn't remember you, Anton, but he's happy to allow you. And it's actually quite cozy in there under the beams with your horses and a few others kind of all beneath you. And the hayloft is actually packed with old hay. Obviously, this time of year, people tend to be running out of hay, but apparently not this one. It's a bit old and a bit scratchy and a bit covered in mites, but it's definitely quite cozy and warm in there once you're all in there and kind of your body warmth is lighting the place up. You could light a little lantern to stay up and talk a bit or whatever, but maybe in a loft full of dry hay, that's not the most amazing idea. But an alternate, Anton, if you're happy to reveal that you have something magical, is that the glow from the sunstone could also light the group of you in the hayloft for the night.
Okay, I could see Anton doing that maybe.
You feel you've built the trust with these people enough for that?
I think we're getting there a little bit more. So with the trust. Sure. So okay. Happy to do that.
Carmi, I'm assuming you haven't let slip at any point in this journey that you know exactly who Anton is.
Yeah, no, I haven't quite yet.
Okay. Well, on this reveal, I suppose, Anton, you withdraw the sunstone and it was kind of getting very dark up here, and now it's light enough for you to maybe chat to your companions and have a nice relaxing evening in this hayloft. What's the reaction to this from the rest of the group?
Blessed Prius. Is that light coming from a stone?
Through the power of Prius himself.
It's really wonderful to be traveling with a priest. I've never seen such a thing.
That is a wonderful thing. You want to be careful who you show that to, though.
Well,
Plenty.
I'm hoping that I can trust you fine folk that are sharing this hayloft with me tonight. So, and I trust that you would keep quiet to other people that we may meet about it as well.
Oh, but of course, Father. But just beware, plenty of ne'er-do-wells.
I'm sure no one would dare turn on a servant of Prius, Father.
Well, they try. They got to come through me.
You mentioned a bit of a rush to get to your destination, Rebero. What's your plan upon arrival?
Well, my plan, as far as it goes, is to search out the Ordo Magica and Ravenia and see if they'll take me in. That's my goal.
Oh, you're a man of the mystical arts.
Well, apparently so. I barely knew myself until recently, but yes, I think so, somewhat. I don't pretend to have any kind of knowledge that the Ordo Magica would have, but I've been told that I should seek them out and that I need their help as much as anything. What about all of you? Are you heading on to Ravenia? Are you stopping in Castor?
I'm going on to Ravenia. I've been commissioned. There's tell of fell beasts and monsters walking the foothills of the Ravens. Need dealing with.
Yes. What do you do? You kill monsters?
I'm a monster hunter. That's what we do.
Oh. Okay. I don't think I could have found a better group to be traveling with. A monster hunter, a priest. Never felt so safe in my life.
Fortune has smiled on us.
You're
Certainly smiled
equally
on me.
safe because I can tell you what mushrooms are safe to eat.
It's a valuable skill. It's a valuable skill as well.
At least mostly safe.
Are you still keeping the other reason why you might be safe close to your chest, Carmi, given that as far as you're aware, one of the group is an extremely capable warrior?
Do you know what? That's because I'm not going to do anything else with the information. So, Anton, I understand you've had some exploits in the past. Why don't you give us a story from some of your adventures?
I'm really not much of an adventurer. I just happen to find myself in the company of people who are much more adept at that sort of stuff than I. My own
Anton
story
here is one of the 5 people who went into the sinkhole.
The heroes of the sinkhole? All this time and you didn't say nothing. Oh, you're a dark horse, Father.
Rebrio, I think it's probably safe because you're from near Dardor, right?
Yeah.
You
So
know
I
what,
guess
give me
I've
a
heard of the sinkhole.
You might have. Give me a cunning roll at, let's say, -3, shall we?
Okay. I think I need a 6. I rolled a 9, so I don't make it.
Yeah, you got no idea what they're talking about.
You've been in a sinkhole? Is that in Davokar? What do you mean?
the sinkhole opened up under the town of Thistlehold, and I can tell you all that you do not want to ever find yourself in a position where you're going down a sinkhole.
I think I knew that already, Father. God, sinkhole sounds terrible. It's just about the worst place I could imagine going.
I heard the place was crawling with abominations. I
It
heard
was.
there was dragons down there.
There were beasts of all kinds, and Amion, you would have found things to hunt. Let's just say that. But I don't think of myself as an adventurer, and I was just in the company of those who were doing such things. Myself, I'm just, to answer your question earlier, Rebio, I'm on priestly duties. Go here, go there, speak to this person, report to that person.
Save this town.
Spreading the good
That
word.
was a sign. Spreading the good word, as you say.
Oh, quite the company I found myself in.
I think on that revelation, not that this isn't a very entertaining conversation, but I'm just aware of the time. And we are definitely running behind schedule. So crew and audience, be aware. This might run a little long tonight, but we've done that in the past. It's all fine. While probably 4 of the crew desperately go, I can't do longer. No, they haven't yet, so that's fine. So your evening in the hayloft passes mostly, I imagine, Anton recounting edited Tales of the Sinkhole, the publicly acceptable parts of it. Probably not mentioning the whole thing about stealing some tablets for the Queen and stuff like that. But regardless, a pleasant evening. And I think by my calculations, you're quite close to Castor now. So when you rise the next morning, it's only going to take you a couple of hours to reach Castor itself, which you do, as I say, a couple of hours after you rise. And the River Eonor comes to a sort of a close not far after it reaches Castor. Not that you can see that, but you know that it kind of disperses into smaller kind of like streams and like pools and small lakes and the like before much further after that. But as you approach Castor, it is still there. Castor is easily the largest town you have encountered on your travels here so far. Obviously, 3 of the players here have spent time in Castor, but it has high stone walls. It is the capital of the Duchy of Saragon. It is of considerable size, and it has like some reputation for heresy in its recent past. And people talk about kind of the festivals they throw here as well, kind of like, depending on the person, either with a sense of like, oh, I'd love to go there and visit and while they're having a festival, or on the other hand, I'd hate to go there when there's a festival. I hear all kinds of ungodliness happens during those times. But either way, as you approach the gates, you can see that they've kind of like recently opened as you are walking down a hillside towards the town, and you enter the northwest gates of Castor. And immediately there are kind of like stables ahead of you, even if you want to carry straight on, which maybe you do and maybe you don't. What's your thinking on that? I imagine the others are kind of like, well, the day's only just started, maybe you're just passing through Castor. But Anton, what was your thinking on it? Because as I say, you've been here before and you have allies here.
Yeah, but time is of the essence. I might suggest that we go to the Rusty Dragon for a good bit of food, and that would give me an opportunity to maybe speak to Semmel.
Absolutely. Or at least the tavern owner may know where he is.
Yeah.
Or something like that. Yeah, absolutely. Well, if that's the plan, which unless any of these are going to object to that, then I'd imagine, are you going to stable your horses here and then wander the town, or is that the idea?
I guess so. If people are open to this idea.
Okay. Well, as you're walking towards the city to the northwest gate stables, then, Anton, why don't you give me a vigilant roll at a +3?
Yeah, I make it.
Standing talking to a guard sergeant at the stable gates is a figure you recognize, a robust and athletic looking woman with kind of very tightly cropped hair, dressed in the garb of the city watch commander. It is Commander Eleva, who you dealt with in a very was a close ally of yours when you clashed with the cult of Tarato's Dawn here.
Yeah. Okay. 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 Well, I might see if I could just walk over and catch her attention for a little bit and just strike up a conversation, just to find out if there's anything of interest going on in the town we should be aware of.
Absolutely. As you approach, she's kind of talking to this guard sergeant. Seems to be kind of receiving a report from him, and as you approach, she seems to kind of finish and turn slightly and kind of sort of almost double takes at you and says, "Father Anton."
It's been a few months.
It's been more than that. Greetings. She stands and kind of holds her hand out for you. I think I half remember we've agreed that like a standard Ambrian handshake is sort of like a forearm grasp rather than a. Because that doesn't feel very fancy, does it?
I was just about to use the term fantasy handshake, but that sounds it sounds wrong. So we'll just right. Yeah, moving on.
It's my favorite early kind of early 90s industrial punk song though. So she shakes your hand and says, what are you doing back out east? You were traveling back to Thistlehold last I knew.
Yeah, so now I find myself going the opposite direction, heading east, with some different responsibilities. And we are, I'm traveling with some different companions these days, and we are looking to pass through. And I just, wanted to catch your attention just for a few minutes to ask about things going on in the town, but also if you knew of anything that, would make travel difficult further eastwards.
Southeast. Where are you traveling?
We're going to Ravenna eventually.
Yes. She kind of glances around your companion, so I'm assuming are close enough to have heard this entire exchange. Well, the road east had some unexpected troubles recently. But Father Anton, the town of Castor owes you a great debt. And I can help you. I think I can help you. Meet me at the south gate in an hour.
Be grateful for any help you can offer. It's I'm very appreciative of that. It's just a real pleasure to be here again under better circumstances.
Yes, well, there's a bit more stability now, thankfully.
Pleased to hear it.
I must rush off to guarantee that help of yours. But yes, Southgate, 1 hour.
We'll be there.
She strides off speedily into the kind of growing morning crowd.
Father Anton, you are an exceptional priest to be owed favors by just about every settlement we pass through.
Well, I can assure you all that this will be the last such time that happens, because this is the furthest to the east that I've been, and yeah, I'm not owed any more favors that I am aware of.
One step more, and you'll be the farthest from home you've ever been. Let's cut away from this group, and I'm assuming the group is going to move to the south gate. Are you going to stop at the Rusty Dragon along the way? It is on the way. You could definitely stop there for a brief drink, or are you going to avoid further complications?
If we've only got an hour, I don't think that maybe makes sense.
Yeah, that's fair. Okay, then we're briefly going to cut away from this group. Hi, John.
Hello.
Hello. You are roused from your bed by a banging on your door.
I get out of bed, make sure my crossbow is close to hand by the door, and then open it.
Eliva stands on your doorstep. Your bed is, of course, in your chamber in the town garrison, part of the ranger housing there. Captain?
Captain?
Technically commander, but I suppose captain is also correct in spirit. I've got a favor to ask you, Lindra.
I'm listening.
Are you still intent on striking out to New Berator today?
That's the plan.
Do you remember I told you about the sellswords from the agency? The one who helped us with the cult last year? Was it last year?
Yes.
Yes. Beginning of last year. Yes. About a year ago.
Yeah, I remember.
One of them, the priest, is back in Castor. He's heading to Ravenna. We owe him a great debt. And I didn't exactly like the look of his companions. Maybe you can accompany him as far as Ravenna.
Is he going to slow me down?
Of course, you're a ranger. Look, I know I had my reasons to decline, but if you do, maybe I'll change my mind on garrison propriety and we can get that glass of wine or two when you come back. As a favor to me.
When's he leaving?
Now. Southgate. I told him an hour, and that was 15 minutes ago.
I'll walk out the gate with him. Whether he keeps up with me is up to him.
I suppose that's all I can ask, Lindra. Thank you.
Excuse me, I think I need to pack.
Until the glass of wine. She takes a few steps away and turns. And if anyone's curious what John's character looks like, you shouldn't be if you watched last week. That is what Captain Lindra of the Queen's Rangers looks like. There we go. Let's move straight to the South Gate, shall we? An hour later, Anton, Rebio, Carmine, and the Amion, are you just basically loitering around the South Gate of Castor?
Yeah, possibly lurking.
I think if we got there super early, which we probably did, it does not take an hour to walk across Castor. I will have probably snuck in
half an hour at most.
I probably would have snuck in, found a kind of I don't know, pork pie vendor or some other fantasy fare, and brought back a kind of modest lunch for the group.
Oh, very nice of you.
Thanking you kindly.
Thank you very
In
much.
that case, shall we say that Captain Lindra approaches the group as they are finishing off this cheap luncheon? I mean, you can. There's only one group of people with Theurg amongst them by the South Gate, so it's clearly them.
Are you lot heading to Ravenna? once you've finished eating.
That's us. You heading that way yourself?
I am. Thought you might appreciate some company.
We would be very glad of the company of an experienced traveller like yourself. I presume it's very obvious from her. From
it is very obvious she's in a ranger's uniform. Yes.
Yeah.
There is almost no one more handy to have on a journey in Ambria or Davakar than a Queen's Ranger.
Gregory at this point is like, what?
I mean, unless you're poaching in the forest, which at least two of the people here do.
Yeah, sure, yeah. You're not in the forest, so it's fine.
Can I give a critical eye over the slightly rough-looking companions of the Theurg?
Yeah, go on. Roll a give me a cunning roll, please. Actually, no. I think in this case, because you're experienced enough, just give me a vigilant roll. And on that topic, can you tell us what vigilant Lindra has, please?
Linda has 15 vigilant.
Oh, it's only 15. Okay.
But she did roll a 1.
Well then, the priest holds himself more confidently than most priests do. He also has what looks to be a quite fearsome and well-made flail mounted onto the side of his horse. It has dents in it, which means it's definitely been used. It's, that is a weapon that has killed men. So he is not incapable. The youngest one of them, the tall, rangy lad, I mean, he looks like what he is, a young, maybe slightly naive traveler. You don't get any real sense from him one way or another, other than the fact that he's kind of calming his horse next to him with a mere touch, so he seems to be maybe good with animals. The oldest one of the, maybe oldest one of the, I kind of read Carmine as on the older end of things, in his 30s or 40s, yeah. Or something. 30s, yeah. Which I think still makes him the oldest, maybe apart from Anton. Maybe. How old's Anton, Mike?
I think he said sort of mid-40s.
Oh, okay. Fair enough. So Anton is the oldest. He looks rough and shady. He has a pouch next to him that seems to be overflowing with herbs and plants of various kinds, that many of which do not look like they have any application whatsoever. An itinerant trader and herbalist is what you'd guess, maybe with a sideline in more illicit things. You've sent plenty of his kind to the Queen's jail. The youth dressed in rough furs and kind of scraggly clothing. He has traps hung off the side of his horse, and he has a halberd slung on it as well. It's all the kind of gear of like a hunter or someone who's kind of engaging in trapping and beast work of some kind. You immediately notice that both the halberd and the traps are very new. You would wager that halberd was bought no less than a couple of months ago.
All right. So, yeah, okay.
They are not an impressive band, with the possible exception of the priest.
Aside,
Anton's never had that said about him before.
Things are truly fucking dire.
Father Anton one-shot a hunger wolf. Right?
Even a broken clock is right twice a day.
Even a broken flail crushes a skull twice a campaign.
I'm just going to say it's a 1 in 20 chance to roll a critical.
Yeah.
I will turn to the ranger and introduce myself and introduce everyone else. Just a bit out to role play that. And ask about the sort of troubles on the road ahead. The captain mentioned that there were some dangers on the road to the southeast. Do you know of these, or are they? Is that a reason to choose a different route, or how would you suggest we go from here?
For your information, John, basically it's travelers have gone missing. Either troublesome beasts or bandits are assumed to have come to the lands between Castor and Elvelyn. But no one really knows anything more than that. It's only been over the last couple of weeks. So realistically, there's been no chance for people to go out and investigate yet. You were intending to take a look on your way to New Bertel.
Has it been mostly solo travelers, or has it also been groups?
Small groups, or solo, yeah.
Okay. There's been the occasional traveler going missing. Personally, I was intending to have a look on my way past, especially as it's the fastest route anyway.
I think that most of us here would say that we do want to take the fastest route that we can.
Good.
Time is of the essence.
To the horses, then?
Aye.
We'll follow you.
Okay. I would say we can have a bit of banter as we leave, but I'm going to guess, John, that Lindra is intent on saying as little as humanly possible.
She's not really one for banter.
No. So the road south from Castor swiftly turns to the southeast and soon starts to run alongside the dense Seragon forest to the south. It has a wild darkness to it, but almost none of the foreboding nature of Davakar. The creaking of boughs and the calls of animal life echo from within, but all the sounds remain explicable and expected. It is, however, unusually quiet, and you can note this, Lindra. You're starting to reach roads that are generally much more travelled than those ones very near the edges of the forest that you've been on. You, in fact, only encounter a small train of traders going north early in your journey, like an hour or so out from the south gate of Castor. They are kind of trundling along in about 3 caravans, and as they kind of approach you, they seem to slow down at first and then speed up a bit and sort of go past you, eyes kind of away from you, kind of very much keeping to themselves and intending on not speaking to you whatsoever unless essentially forced to do so by one of you.
Do they seem to be acting suspicious or just cautious?
Give me a vigilant roll, and it's kind of your speciality, right? So you can take a +2 to it.
Success.
They just seem very wary.
That's fair enough. I will not engage.
All right. You carry on that path along the road to the north of Seragon Forest. As the hours roll by, is there anything in particular you're engaging in, or anything you're trying to like converse about, or anything like that, or is this newfound sense of slight tension to your journey causing you to be more kind of quiet and aware?
I think on Ansman's part, I'm happy to be quiet, just because this is now roads that I've never travelled on before. So
yeah. As noon passes and a couple of hours later into the afternoon, it is still kind of fearsomely cold here. There's a very chill wind blowing from the north, from Davakar, and there's almost nothing in the way of that on the road as it blusters through you and into the trees of the forest. Shortly, not too long after noon, as I say, a couple of hours, you round a sort of slight bend in the road as it moves around a clump of trees, and ahead of you, about maybe 100 meters or so ahead of you, there is a covered cart that seems to be half off the road, kind of like not enough to be tipped over, but enough so that one of the wheels is kind of like dropped over the side of the roadway. You can't see any sign of anyone.
Under my voice will be, I don't like that. It's been a spooky morning. Could do with
Does it look like it's
less.
Does it look like it's been there a long time, or like
You can't tell without closing on it a bit more. It's not, the covering isn't ragged or anything like that. So
If you have weapons, I suggest you draw them.
Aye.
And I will move forward to investigate the wagon.
okay. Is anyone else following with Captain Lindra?
Yeah, there's no way that Iamion's going to be upstaged.
I'm
It's not having it.
not going to be shown up by a display of competence.
Yeah. Those people don't know.
So
Yes.
you approach within kind of much closer, kind of 20 meters or so of this covered cart. Is anyone else following as well, or is it just Lindra and Iamian at this point? Carmine's not going that close. Anyone else?
Everyone's going to stick with Anton.
Antom's going to try and roll Blessed Shield, and if it works, he'll go close, and if it doesn't, he'll keep.
Sure. Give it a go then.
And I make it.
Okay, who else are you placing it on? Because you've got double Blessed Shield, right?
You're on mute as well.
Lindra can look after herself. At this point, Anton has got no reason to believe that Iamion is full of shit, so he's not getting it. So probably one of Rebrio and Carmine.
Rebrio did say he has some form of mystical power, so if it was me, I'd say that Carmine seems the most vulnerable.
Yeah, I'm okay
and he
with
also
that.
seems the most reluctant. Sure.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay, so you cast it and it kind of sparkles in the air around you. Carmine, can you give a cunning roll, please? And I'm probably going to put a -2 on this because I can't imagine that you've had this done anywhere near you before, probably.
Yeah, I was going to say this is probably not the kind of thing I'm used to. Cunning roll -2. Oh, he passes.
The priest has invoked some kind of blessing on you. That the sparkles of Prios's warmth are around you in the air. You know not what purpose it serves, but they also seem to be in the air around Anton.
Oh, Father, you do me a great honor. Carmine will, from the side of his pony, produce a bow and an arrow and kind of start preparing it. Says, might not be as much use on me, though. I tend not to get too close to enemies.
You can never be too careful.
So the way I'm imagining it, Lindra and Iamian are at the front. Anton and Rebrio are slowly approaching from behind them, and Carmine's kind of hanging even further back from that.
I'd say I'm with Anton and Rebrio, but I'm beginning to try and the beginning of a flanking maneuver.
Sure, kind of moving out a bit, circling about a bit away from the woods, maybe. That kind of a thing. Okay. Well, Lindra and Iamian, can you both roll vigilant for me, please? Yay, and no. Prepare to be upstaged. So, Lindra, there's a few slashes in that covering on the cart. There are also several crossbow bolts broken off in the wood of the cart. You spot a poor quality dagger that's lying discarded in some underbrush near the cart, and even more tellingly, on the wood of the cart itself and a number of patches of vegetation and some of the dust of the road, there are visible splashes of blood. You don't think anyone is lurking here, though. And also, there are if you got a bit closer, you think you could do another vigilant roll to try and find out more, is what I'm saying.
Okay. It looks abandoned from here.
Press on. Right.
Okay. You ride up closer to the cart. Nothing the cart is empty. Nothing leaps out at you. Nothing attacks. So you're going to try and look around the area a bit more carefully.
Yes. I'm particularly looking for tracks. Be interesting to see what state the tracks are in as well, but
absolutely. And I believe you get bonuses to this, right?
I do. I get a
Bloodhound
+3 bonus.
So you're going to be rolling against an 18 when I ask you for your vigilant roll then to try and find any tracks leading away from the abandoned cart. Yeah. There are a number of scuff tracks in the vegetation leading directly into the wood from this point, including 2 or 3 trails of blood.
Do I have any idea how many sets of footprints in total? Or is it just a bit of a mess?
You would say less than 10 and more than 5. But other than that, you can't be sure.
Okay.
A not inconsiderable band.
Looks like a group of them went off into the forest. Maybe 2 or 3 injuries. No more than 10 total.
Bandits?
Seems likely.
Obviously, the group can do what they want, but I should point out, Lindra, you have a very clear duty of what to do at this point.
I do.
We going after them?
I am.
All right.
Then we will too.
Lindra, you are probably pretty aware. You probably won't go, that's Blessed Shield, a novice or whatever. But you are aware
something.
the Theurg has cast some kind of protective blessing on himself and the herbalist, who is also who you choose as the most vulnerable member of the party.
That's another point towards the priest's competency. So again, something probably Anton has never had said about him.
Mm-hmm.
I give Iemian a bit of a side eye, especially his shiny new halberd.
He's putting on his best serious huntsman face.
Mm-hmm. I take it we're following the trail into the edge of the wood? Okay. Well, it does not take you far, maybe only 30 feet or so into the woodland, before you come across a small clearing. And it's kind of incongruous with the sound of kind of some of the birds returning to this forest as winter closes. But ahead of you are 5 bodies stripped to their underclothes and clearly only dead for a day or so. Lindra and Iamion, you are the first to see them. Could you give me a cunning roll, please?
That's a pass.
Yeah. At first glance, you would place them as probably 2 merchants with their teenage son and a couple of more hard-bitten looking guards. A more careful example of their bodies would, I guess, reveal the exact methods of their deaths. I'd allow that as a cunning roll with penalties, unless you're Anton, because he has Medicus, in which case you can make a cunning roll with a bonus. But either way, you've kind of just emerged into this clearing. Lindra and Iamion, you are there and able to look around. The others are kind of coming up behind you, I'd imagine.
I will have a look and see if I can work out the injuries.
Sure. Give me a cunning roll at a -5, please.
Wow. Oh, I passed it.
Okay, then. As the others reach the clearing, Iamian, you are taking a look at them. 2 of them have kind of broken off bolts embedded into their bodies. 2 others have been stabbed through. and the largest guard looks to have had her head caved in with something heavy and blunt.
Okay.
Matt, how many people were in the caravan we passed earlier?
In the caravans, there were like 3 or 4 caravans, and there was like over 15
so it's
people.
not a it's not a bait and
You're
switch
almost
then.
certain
There's
it
not a
wasn't
stealth
them.
caravan.
Yeah.
Okay.
And they looked very different. If you had to guess, you'd say that they went past this, and that's why they were being so wary. They probably didn't investigate into the forest if they were just traders.
Gabriel's gonna wheel his upon seeing the bodies. He will like turn away and make some kind of sign to Prios and a prayer for just help.
Can I search for continuation of tracks?
Yes, you absolutely can. Can you give me a vigilant roll, please?
Pass.
Well, the 18. Yeah. The tracks lead off sort of in a southerly direction. You kind of take a few steps away from the I take it you're kind of hunched over, right? Kind of looking at the vegetation. As Lindra's doing this, can I just have a quick snapshot of what everyone else is doing, please? Let's just go round in a good old clockwise direction. So let's have Stephen first.
Kind of looking out into the forest and just like seeing if I can kind of perceive any movement, really. And
sure, maybe like near behind Lindra, sort of like looking around as she's scrubbing along the floor. You've got no idea what that's about.
I'm in hunting. There's something in these woods, and I've got my halberd.
Carmi.
As soon as I've kind of twigged that Lindra may have spotted that the trail isn't dead yet, I'm actually going to get myself into the underbrush and go stealth mode.
Okay, so you're kind of like trying to recede away a little bit. Rebrio.
Like I said, praying to Prios and probably not wanting to be too close to these bodies.
Sure. So kind of the back of the group sort of thing, right?
Yeah.
Anton.
I will listen to Rebrio's prayers and offer him some word of encouragement, and then I will probably be just inspecting the bodies.
Sure, absolutely. So as you're doing that, Lindra, can you give me a vigilant roll at -5, please? And in fact, Iamion, you said you were looking at as well. Also give me a vigilant roll at -5.
I passed. I roll a 3 against a target of 10.
Okay. Then 2 things happen in close proximity. One, Lindra, you notice movement in the trees ahead of you in the direction you thought they went. And both you and Iamion hear clunking sounds. Little wooden clunks as if mechanisms are tripping. Lindra, you have both of you have enough time to maybe say or very quickly do one thing.
I think there might be traps.
Lindra, what are you doing for your part?
Is it a type of clunk that I would recognize as, say, a crossbow? As a crossbow user?
You're spot on. They are crossbows. And I say they because there was a series of them.
I shout, "Cover!" and jump for the nearest tree.
Okay, so a number of things happen at this point. Lindra dives behind a nearby tree. Iamion says his Iamion got something right. It's a trap. Karma, you're already in the bushes. Rebrio, you're kind of like backed away a bit. Anton, you're moving towards the bodies. I'm going to say that Lindra and Anton are probably in the best position to see Iamion stagger back a couple of steps and then turn around, his chest a garden of crossbow bolts as he drops first to one knee. The halberd topples into the underbrush and then he crashes to the ground in the forest. Lindra, you immediately discard him from your notions of battlefield strategy. That he's a dead man. Anton, you're a medical expert. You suspect he was probably dead before he hit the ground. And there we go. I think we'll end the session there. Thanks, everyone, for watching or playing. And if you've got any comments or questions, please pop them into the chat. We're running a bit late, but we will go through them a little bit. We will do some promo before that. If you check below, there are links to YouTube, links to Twitch. Please follow those for either our VODs or our live streams, depending on what you want. There are also links to social media, Discord, and Patreon if you're interested in that kind of thing. We run 2 weekly series at the moment, Vason on Mondays, Symbaroum on Wednesdays. We also do one-shots. The next one is on Saturday, the 29th of April, and it will be Goblin Quest, which will be a lot of fun and will feature no less than 2 of the finest people. I can't point to Stephen. John and Stephen are in that, alongside other people, Inga, Holly, and Justin. So please do join us for that. It'll be a lot of fun. Okay. And also, if anyone was concerned at me just outright wasting a character there and go, you should have rolled for the things, Stephen can't be with us for the next couple of weeks. So that was why. So calm yourself.
Can I just say, I love that Stephen started as a wish ordered Aragorn and ended as a wish ordered Boromir.
Yeah, I didn't even think about that.
Yep. By way of wish ordered Admiral Akbar.
Yeah. It's an ambush. Yeah, I've got a wish ordered Admiral Akbar. People are doubting me out there. They're saying, "What do you mean, Matt?" I'll show you what I mean.
You've got a Barbie with a fish head.
That's one of the characters in the new Barbie movie, isn't it?
No, I have an Admiral Akbar. There we go.
We should never have doubted you.
Without giving away too much in the nature of parasocial details, the man who bought me this is on this fucking crew.
You're welcome.
Older fans will know this because they've seen him play Imperial Assault with us on the old channel. But there we go. The stream is not sponsored by Wish. If only. Cool. Let's throw some comments and questions up. I think people seem to like this bit of a diversion. The Lucio, familiar face. I just watched the Dungeon World VOD. Familiar face. So that would be Chris and John, right? We're in Dungeon World. So yeah, absolutely. Thank you. I hope you enjoyed Dungeon World. The next parts of it will be arriving over the course of next week. Anything else? John. Stephen, has Anton just got a chunk of radioactive metal? Yeah. It's basically
just a weirdly hot stone.
Nice and warm. It's basically the first episode of Chernobyl.
Yeah.
God. Yeah.
It's got the powers of heat and also the powers of enforced baldness.
And the powers of unraveling your genetic material.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that's very on brand for Symbaroum, though, isn't it?
It is, yeah. It
cool
is.
stone.
Yeah,
totally cursed.
I have wanted, or I would love a system that is sort of like a Symbaroum-esque, there's something corrupted in the forest, but the ancient temples are just like, have you seen, I think it's the concept art for like long-term nuclear waste storage, and it's all like hostile architecture and like universal language of like, this is not a place of honor.
Yeah. They
Like,
settled on
that's
like
amazing.
a universal language that essentially says "Here be dragons," right? That is like written in a way where it's like, because you don't need to write it for future people who know what it is. You need to write it for future people who are not, have like in some ways moved to a less complex technological level, and therefore you literally have to say, "There's poison and fucking demons here. Fuck the fuck off." Yeah, it's fascinating. Yeah.
Yep.
Cool. And terrifying. Sam, thank God we got the monkey paw, because no way the church is buying giving Anton a cursed hand for free. Yeah. Absolutely.
It's dangerous to go alone. Take this.
Take this cursed hand.
This comment from Don't kick food. Did not age well, I'm afraid.
I hope Anton rolls super well during the interlude because it's his flashback, and why wouldn't he want himself to look good? Because he hates himself. That's why.
I think he came off pretty well comparatively.
I think he did, but towards the end, they look like a bit of a badass, right?
Yeah.
His blessed shield and his
I do like the
base
fact
level
that
of competence.
Mike knows for a fact his character can't die in this interlude, but still is blessed shielding himself before every fight.
Well, you say that, but someone did write a comment along those lines of what if he dies? There we go, Stephen. If Anton doesn't make it through this campaign, I hope the retcon is just that Mike changes his character sheet to be a changeling.
It's just been pretending to be Anton, like for lulz. Since
And when have people looking like other people ever caused a problem in this campaign, eh?
Can't imagine it.
And if you think Anton hates himself, just imagine how much you've got to hate yourself to be a changeling playing Anton.
The thing is, we'd figure out immediately the first time he passed the roll. We'd be like, "That's not Anton. That can't be him."
You got good.
That can't even be Mike. Yeah. Good job, Anton took this route. Yeah, absolutely. It's still, you know what? It still would have happened just somewhere else. Don't kick food. The Templar is doing that thing where he points at his eyes. Then I am. Yeah. I liked that when I wrote that little bit for him. I was like, this is nice, kind of like, fascist intimidation. This is nice, like, making it fucking clear that you're in deep trouble if you kill this priest and leave him in a ditch. Without just saying it, Dungeoneering VTT, glad to see more of Ambria in this side quest. You know what? As I was writing it up, that was also what occurred to me. And weirdly, I've actually super enjoyed this session of just mostly traveling and seeing different towns and going to different places, to areas we haven't really done before. I have to say as well, congratulations to myself, because most of that is not detailed in the books. None of the Castor is the only place we went to that is detailed in the books. Everything else I was just like, well, what does that feel like? What does that look like it might be? And like literally just to the point where I saw, did you notice on the map above I can't remember even the name of it now, Lorimon, the logging town, did you notice that on the map the actual detailed trees of the forest moved away from the edge of the river? And I was like, well, maybe that's like a logging town then.
Just Ambrians stupidly pushing into Davokar.
Yeah, just like that guesswork.
That's going to be an absolutely cursed place.
Surely Davokar, the best way to deal with Davokar is to make it smaller. Am I right?
Yeah, it's just
concentrate that evil. Yeah.
I think Davokar's kind of the center of gravity for the game, but like there's definitely enough hooks of things going on in Ambria, just like hints of stuff like.
Yeah. I was reading a bunch of the stuff to like prep for this, and there's like so many hooks and little bits that like I could build an entire campaign around, like just other stuff. Yeah,
you just like set in like central Ambria, like Temple Wall and places like that.
Yeah, for sure, absolutely. Next, what we got? Anything? What we got?
Do we have anything? Nope. Nothing else.
So yeah, that one ran a little long. Sorry, folks. / you're welcome, depending on your point of view. But did everyone have fun in this Ambrian side quest area?
Yeah.
Stephen, did you have fun particularly?
I did. I'm sorry for not warning you that Iamian was going to be West Country.
No, I loved it. I loved it.
Iamian was also my favorite, and now I have to play with the dregs of the party for the next couple of weeks.
This fucking Anton guy.
I kept going back to the. I kept going back to the Wish like Aragorn thing, and just like he must have had like a bunch of drinking buddies and the prancing pony in Bree, just like surly old kind of humans. But just like only one of them was the King of Gondor, and the rest of them were just nobodies. It's just like,
yeah. Cool. Yeah. Well, that was fun. So for the next couple of weeks, at least, we will be doing obviously this Anton side quest, and then we'll be back with Witchhammer once we've finished with that. So hopefully that will be fun for people. So we will see you, Sans Stephen, next week. for more of this. So until then, take care and stay safe, folks. Goodbye. Goodbye. Goodbye.